Alright, and the third video of the day is Canadian team. Now, I'm getting down to uh, the Canadian teams that I've left out until the end. Because I've done Toronto, I've done Montreal, I've done Vancouver, I've done Winnipeg, I've done Edmonton, and that leaves at least two. Now, would I pick Calgary or would I pick Ottawa? Now, you already know because you clicked on it knowing the name of the video, but I have to start with Calgary because I have to leave Ottawa for tomorrow. I'm probably overtired right now from being up partying last night, and Ottawa seems to need my undivided attention. Ottawa needs me, and Ottawa fans need me, is the important thing. Calgary fans, I'm a Canuck fan, so they don't need me. They don't want me. They don't want anything to do with me. Calgary fans wouldn't care that I have, let's see, how many Calgary jerseys do I have? One, two, I have four of them. I have four different Calgary jerseys. I'm wearing the Kings because I'm not wearing Calgary today. But they're all in my trunk of wonder here. Speaking of trunks of wonder, Brad Treliving reached into his and pulled out Troy Brouwer. And Brouwer likely starts on the first line because the right side is kind of weak in Calgary. So you have Goudreau, Monahan, and Brouwer. I mean, they could try converting the new kid, Kachuk, but you're not going to put him on the first line as a converted winger, right? And you really want to convert the kid before he's played? Probably not. So Kachuk would start on the second line. I've got Bennett on the second line, not Backlund. And then Frolik on the right side. So, yeah. And then on the third line, I've got Shinkarik with Backlund and Chiasson. Chiasson needed a change of scenery, and I think it's going to help him quite a bit. And I think Shink is going to probably cause a lot of Canucks fans to cry this year. I think Hunter Shinkarik is a good player. And while I don't agree that it was like the worst trade in history to get Marcus Granlund for Hunter Shinkarik, it wasn't a good trade either. And I think as soon as this year, Shinkarik shows that Vancouver should have given him more of a chance. I don't understand why they didn't. There's something they didn't like in his game. That's fine, but I honestly think this could come back to haunt them. And then on the fourth line, I have Ferland, Stajan, and Balma. A fourth line you don't want to be up against. A fourth line that can hurt you physically and on the scoreboard if given the opportunity. Stajan's gone from being a guy who's overpaid and overrated to a guy who's really underrated. And I think he's still got an offensive upside to him. And not in terms of like development upside, but in terms of he can score more points and goals than you may realize. And if he has a good year where he's not dealing with any distractions, and the distractions are not his fault, and I have full respect for him. But if he can put those away and just have just a season where all he has to worry about is playing hockey, I like Stajan. I've always liked Stajan. I liked him when he was in Toronto. I never understood why Toronto fans didn't like him. And then their extra forwards, I have Brennan, Bollig, and Lyndon Vay. Vay is a decent utility guy, but as soon as you start giving him key minutes, he'll let you down. As soon as you start saying, well, maybe he can score, he'll let you down. The pipeline between Vancouver and Calgary right now is the strongest it's been since the 80s, and it is the weirdest thing to see players move back and forth between the two. But I think Vay is an okay signing for Calgary, and he's a guy that if you need to waive him to send him to the minors, he probably clears. I honestly don't see anybody claiming him on waivers. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Be very interesting to see what happens. Because there's a lot of good forwards here in Calgary. I think that the opportunity for Goudreau and Monahan to really hit that next level. I think Kachuk's going to have something to say about that because if Kachuk comes into the lineup, and he starts scoring right away, and teams have to key on him and put up their best defenseman. Well, you can't because you got Goudreau and Monahan, but you have to figure something out. So if Kachuk can be that distraction, it could drive Goudreau and Monahan's numbers up too, just because teams are going to have to accommodate for more offense from Calgary than they did last year. On the blue line, they have Giordano and Brody on the first, and that's just the way it is. And then Hamilton and Weidman as the second pairing. Jokipaka and England as the third pairing. And up in the press box, I have Smead and Wotherspoon. So it's a pretty solid top six in Calgary. Jokipaka was picked up in the trade for Chris Russell, and that's a steal. And then you add in a second round draft pick, and you wonder what the hell was Dallas thinking? And I honestly don't know. I would have been much happier to have Jokipaka in the lineup and keep the second round draft pick than what Chris Russell did for Dallas, which was not very much. And, now Dallas had to scramble in the offseason and sign Dan Hamhuis to make up for Jokipaka. So Calgary looks really good. Really good. And then in net, you have Elliott and Johnson, and that is one of the top solid tandems where you have the number one guy, the number two guy, and I'm just very impressed with what Calgary's done with their goaltending in the last 3 weeks. It was funny because it was only a couple years ago that they picked up Jonas Hiller, and all I kept reading about was how, out of the Western Canadian teams, Calgary's got the best goaltending, and I kept saying to myself, because I didn't have a channel at the time, no, they don't. Calgary had a guy in Hiller who was overrated from playing in Anaheim, and Ramo, a guy who was overrated because he had really good KHL numbers. KHL numbers don't really mean a whole lot. Come over and prove it in the NHL. And when you can't, you can go back to the KHL. That's always an option. And so now what the Flames have is two steady, if unspectacular, goaltenders. And that's really all they need. Calgary will be back in the playoffs this year, I believe that. I think the Kings are the team that's going to struggle to make it and could very well fall out, especially with the rapid erosion of Dustin Brown's game, the disappearance of Mike Richards due to stuff that happened, the disappearance of Slava Voinov due to stuff that happened. There's something with LA that you pick up players who have a reputation for whatever off the ice and figure, okay, well we'll fix that, but it's LA, man. I mean, if a guy is partying and if he's got a drug problem or any problem, I would think LA is the worst place to put him. Absolutely the worst place. Because he'll have access to absolutely everything, and he's a star. Makes millions of dollars, and it's right next to Hollywood. Like, you're setting the player up for a huge fall. Now it's up to him whether or not he takes that fall. But still, I would think that for these guys, a better place to send them would be a place where they're going to have a better shot at a life that doesn't include all the partying you can do in LA. You can party in any city, but I would think in LA it would be special. I would think that you would remember for the rest of your life some of the parties in LA you could participate in if you're a multimillionaire. And Jeff Carter seems to have avoided it. So, meanwhile, Jeff Carter's just plugging along and scoring his goals and playing a good game and watching the team kind of fall apart. I kind of feel for Drew Doughty in that situation, but this is a Flames video, so I guess I can switch that to Giordano and say I felt bad for him last year in Calgary because he didn't really get as much support early in the season from Hamilton as he should have. And then Weidman took the suspension, and regardless of whether we think it should have been that length of time or less or whatever, it happened. And it put more pressure on a blue line that didn't have a lot else to offer. So I guess we'll see what happens with Calgary, but I like their chances of making the playoffs. Of the Canadian teams, right now, I would say the two that have the best shot at making the playoffs are Calgary and Montreal, and Winnipeg gets an honorable mention at third. And then after that, Toronto's not ready. I'll talk about Ottawa tomorrow. I'm not getting into that argument right now. Edmonton's getting there. I don't see it this year, but next year potentially. And Vancouver is a mess. An absolute unmitigated mess. That's my opinion. I know there's Canuck fans out there that, oh no, we're gonna squeeze into the playoffs. We're gonna squeak in there, and once you get in there, you've got a shot. Not really. These guys, when they won the cup as the number 8 seed, they're the exception, not the rule. So teams look at the number 8 seed getting in, they go, oh look, well they won. Yeah, Jonathan Quick won it. That was Quick's Stanley Cup as much as anything else. There was some key moments in each series where forwards stepped up and scored goals, but Jonathan Quick dragged them to that Stanley Cup. It was very, very impressive. So, no. Just because you're the number 8 seed and you made the playoffs, it doesn't necessarily mean that you are in the running. You qualified. Good for you. But you're probably going to get knocked out pretty quick. So, anyways, that's it for my Calgary video. Calgary is due for a bounce back. I think they get that bounce back this year. And we'll see what happens from there. Thanks for watching.